Pray first. Mari kita mulai menurut agama kepercayaan masing-masing. Berdoa dipersilahkan. Terima kasih. Once more, appreciate to my best friend, Mr. Alfian, from Faculty of Education, Esa Unggul University Jakarta, and Puan Nurul Huda binti Hasan Bakri, lecturer and Deputy Director of Student Affairs, Al-Bukhari International University, and all participants. Once more, appreciate to you all. We hope we get to new experience this morning. Okay, the second, we go to ASEAN lecturer, and then we hope Puan Nurul Huda, you can to inform or introduce another of professor or associate professor or associate professor from Al-Bukhari if they want to sharing or one of them as the RLC Board of Trustee. No problem. I will to invite him via Puan Nurul Huda is the ambassador RLC from Al-Bukhari, and your friend whose name before Nur Azli. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Alfian, time is your right now. Please.
Thank you so much, Pak Reza.
Welcome.
Yeah, let me share the screen. Is it showing now?
Very clear. Very clear.
Ya, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalam.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and yeah, the Honorable Prof. Reza and also Nurul Huda, yeah, and also the committee. Yeah, I think it's been nice for me to welcome you all to our webinar. Yeah, and in this opportunity, I'd like to share and also discuss with all of you about the way we master the language. So, yeah, well, actually, it's not that easy for some person to learn a language. Even we will see that there are a lot of people who didn't even learn language, but in fact, he or she can use the language, can acquire the language. So in this lovely opportunity, I'd like to share about two different terminology in mastering a language. Okay, we have acquiring and also we have learning. Yeah. Mastering a language, acquiring or learning. Okay, you may see on the screen that, yeah, maybe up to now, we have only two kinds of this terminology, language acquisition and also language learning. But not many have already know how to use it. Yeah, maybe several of us didn't even know whether we master the language by learning or by acquiring. So that's why we need to check what are they actually. But I'd like to interact with the student here and the participants, of course. The first question, how do you master your first language? In Indonesia, we know that we have several languages that we use, starting from the first language, mother tongue, second, third, and so on. Is there anyone here from the participant maybe wanna answer, try to answer? How do you master your first language? By learning or by acquiring? Maybe your Japanese, yeah, your Sundanese, maybe, yeah, or Betawinis, yeah. Anyone? Ada yang mau share nggak? Misalkan bahasa pertama kalian itu misalkan bahasa Jawa, itu kira-kira kalian mempelajarinya atau tiba-tiba bisa aja gitu bahasa Jawa? Atau bahasa Indonesia ya, asal lingua franca itu kalian mempelajarinya atau ya udah bisa tahu-tahu bisa gitu. How do you master your first language? Yeah, I do believe maybe the thing that you have in mind, you didn't even realize that you learn bahasa Indonesia. but in the stage, yeah, you know that you are able to use it. Means that we acquired the language. We didn't focus on the way and also the particular, technique, yeah, in terms of learning. Because yeah, we can use Bahasa Indonesia as our, mother tongue. Means we acquire it. Okay. And how do you master English as a foreign language? Yeah, in Indonesia here, English as an, obligatory subject. Yeah. Yeah, started from elementary up to even university. Means we try to learn English as a foreign language. And this is the most important question. Yeah, the third question: which one do you think that help you master a language more quickly? Maybe you want to try to compare between the way you use Bahasa Indonesia and English. Which one do you think, for you, of course, you think more suitable and also comfortable with you? Is it by learning? Is it by acquiring? What do you think? By learning or by acquiring? When you try to use Bahasa Indonesia, of course you will say that, oh, I try to acquire Bahasa Indonesia. I didn't even learn it in the particular way and in the formal way. But in English, started from elementary up to university, yes, yeah, it's the fact. Yeah, we try to learn English. Yeah, and sometimes we forget. We need also try to acquire English itself. So that's why maybe you want to reflect this question. So how many years, yeah, that you have learned English, started from elementary school up to university? Do you dare to try to come up with the level of your English? Yeah. So that's why, because maybe we see language not as a language. We see language, in this case English, as a subject, because we only want to get a good score. We forgot one important aspect. What is it? The acquisitions. So we need to learn the language. We need also try to acquire the language. Yes. Okay. Yeah, be honest, I'm not really expert at this area. Maybe Bu Nur Huda, yeah, because it's this area had been covered well in the, psycholinguistic. Yeah. Yeah, but at a glance, we will try to check, yeah, the way our brain try to process the language, because it's not a simple way. You may see from this area, Broca area, if you want. This is the area in which word production center. Yeah, it try to produce the speech, and this is the important part of language formulation. The language formulation is processed in Broca's area. Okay, you may see on this gyrus area involved with language perception and also processing. Angular gyrus assembles information and help understand words and concept. Okay, and from the primary auditory cortex, sound processing area, auditory signal is recognized, memorized, and may also result in a response. And the Wernicke area, word reception center. Okay, in this area, yeah, our brain try to understand the speech, works with the angular gyrus, insular cortex, and basal ganglia to process word sequence to determine context and also meaning. Yeah. In short, we may see that. Oh, sorry. Okay, in short, yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 5 different area in our brains, yeah, that can be used, yeah, to process the language. But in short, we may divide it into 2 important area. Okay, if we want to acquire a language, okay, by acquisition process, I think I need to, yeah, the Wernicke area, yeah, the Broca area. If Broca area is used to acquire a language, yeah. Meanwhile, the Wernicke area, we try the Wernicke area to learning process, yeah, where the understanding speech take place. Okay, we go. Yeah, in the very beginning, we have tried to differentiate between language acquisition and language learning. And in the end of this session, I'd like to ask everyone here, yeah, the participant, the students, to answer our reflection questions, whether or not you like to learn the language or acquire the language, or maybe one after this session we want to try to combine those process. Yeah, so what language acquisition is actually? Language acquisition is a non-conscious procedure. Okay, so this is the keyword. Okay, when we acquire a language, we actually try in the non-conscious procedure. It's unconscious. Okay, non-conscious procedure. Language acquisition also generally happen during the first 6 up to 7 years of a person. So yeah, and generally we do not learn the first language. Remember, we do not learn the first language, but acquire it via verbal and non-verbal communication. That's why in the first question, when I was asking about the way you master your first language, okay, is yeah, it's not by using learning, but we use acquiring or acquisition. Okay, in short, language acquisition occurs through a natural or subconscious process. Okay, language acquisition, subconscious. Okay, so this is several stages in the first language acquisition. You may see on the screen from the first up to 6 months period. It's something that we call as a free linguistic stage. Yeah, 6 up to 9 months babbling stage. So that's why we may see that the baby, the 6 up to 9-year-old baby, usually try to babble and mumble, baba, mama, papa, baba. That's something that we call as a babbling stage. There's a process of acquiring a language. 9 up to 18 months, one word stage, or holopraxis stage. 18 up to 20 months, we call it as a 2-word stage. Yeah, after 1 word, 2 words. And after that, 24 up to 30 months as a telegraphic stage, and more than 30 months, we call it as a multi-word stage. So that's why, in the development of language, process, sometimes we may indicate that the baby has a speech delay or not. We may, refer to this stage. Okay, stage of second language acquisitions. In general, we may divide it into 4 categories. Okay, pre-production, early production, speed emergence, and fluency. Okay, so what is language learning? I think it's not something new for you, because even up to now, even possibly, by watching and also paying attention to this presentation, you also try to learn the language, even acquire the language. So what language learning is actually? It is using a formal education method, of course, in which direct instruction and also rules are provided by an educator. This process is conscious. Jadi kalau kita bandingkan tadi, ada yang sadar dan tidak sadar. Ada non-conscious atau subconscious, ada yang conscious. Nah, kalau language learning jelas, absolutely, it is kind of conscious process. When teaching language, teacher focus on teaching the form of the language, and as a result, they explain the grammar rules, the structures, the vocabulary to the students, so on and so forth. And the bad thing happens when sometimes we see the language not as a language. We see the language like English, Mandarin, Arabic, any kind of language, we just see it as a subject. I think I should cry. Jadi mungkin itu ada blok di sana. Kita melihat bahasa bukan sebagai entitas bahasa yang seharusnya sebagai tool of communication. We only see language as a as a subject, just because we want to get a good score. We want to get a good score on grammar, on structure, on writing. So it's okay to learn a language, but at least we need to see a language as a language itself, as a tool of communication. So of course, we didn't want to get the score only, of course. We use the language for the purpose, yeah, for the communicative purpose, of course. Okay, so this is quite important to discuss, yeah, and I do hope some students would like to ask, maybe add, yeah, some more recommended activities, because when we try to learn and also acquire the language, we need to find out something, several things that really suit with us, that really, what is it, the activity which is quite comfortable with us. So this is the first thing we need to discuss. The way we try to acquire the language, possibly we need to try to listen to the music and podcast. Nowadays, the music and the podcast has been, familiar, yeah, and also famous, yeah. So we need to follow the music, try to translate the lyric and also the podcast, of course, in the target language. And also we need to discuss the interesting topic with friends. Okay, maybe you have a small talk, you have an interesting topic, and you only discuss it in your first language, in Bahasa Indonesia. So you need to push yourself. You need to give your best shot. Just challenge yourself to use English. Okay, and then read the book, novel, magazine, or even social media status. Yeah, it should be written in English. Even a 1, 2, 3, short sentence as your social media status. You need to push yourself. Why don't you try to have it written in English? Okay, and writing a poem, a lyric, or even social media status in English. Yeah, again and again. We need to divide it into 4 categories. Yeah, 4 language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And I do believe everyone, has his or her own, favorite activities. If you like to listen to music, just change, okay, the music, yeah, yeah, try to translate the lyric. Yeah, if you like to read something, why don't you try to read the novel, magazine, newspaper written in English? Yeah, if you like to speak, yeah, maybe you kind of a talkative person, why don't you try to speak using English? Yeah, even writing. Yeah. Okay, I think I have a technical issue how to hide this. What is it? Pareja.
Yeah.
How to hide this panel?
Oh, Indah Gumilang will be to help you, Indah.
It's still showing. Oh, it's okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is several activities. Yeah. Some recommendation for you, everyone. Remember, you cannot make it alone. Why? Because you need a partner. Because the purpose of language is by means of communication. Communication, co means more than 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. As a community, as a group, that was good. But you cannot make it alone. Okay, so that's why you need to, have a group discussion and also learning community. Okay, this is several recommendations and also activities that can be used as your group activities. First, translation. Try your best to translate every single thing you find and also written in English, like a lyric, poem, and so on. Okay, so you need also try to make a group work. If you kind of the introvert persons, just choose one person that really close to you. Okay, maybe your partner in crime, possibly in your campus. Just choose one person and have his or her to be your partner to speak with you. Maybe in a week, maybe 2 up to 3 days, you need to speak in English with your partner. Okay, so learner may engage in a various group tasks, such as small group discussion, and you need to choose one interesting topic to discuss. And also don't forget to record. I know not everyone has been, sanguineous person, maybe kind of introvert person, and you've been, not even brave to show yourself in front of the crowd. So no need to worry. Just record the way you pronounce the word in English. Yeah, just record the way you possibly give a speech or even a lecture. Yeah, so you need to record the conversation in the target language, and also the transcription. You need to transcribe the utterance and the conversation you have recorded for practice and analysis linguistic form. So that's why you need to choose possibly the dialect, yeah, that you like the most. Remember, you don't need to, memorize, yeah, every single word. Just use the transcription. That's why after that, yeah, you may analyze the way you pronounce the word. Well, I can make it next. Okay, yeah, let's move to the point 6. Yeah, this is quite important, everyone. Reflection and also observation. The learner need to reflect and also report the experience of the class as a class or in a group. This usually consists of expression of feeling, sense of one another, reaction to silence, concern for something to say, and so forth. And also listening. Yeah, you know what? Being honest, I've never taken any English course out there. I choose English department just because I like English. As I said before, I see English as a language, not as a subject. I'm not possibly not really expert in English, but I just love it. So that's why. And fortunately, I have an experience that I'm in a band. So that's why I'm getting used to translating a lyric, listen to the Western music, yeah, and also translating the lyrics. So that's yeah, that really gave me a huge exposure of the English itself. Yeah. So in listening, students listen to a monologue by the teacher, yeah, from the song, possibly involving element they might have elicited or overheard in the class interaction. And this is one of my favorite, activities. If you guys want to try to acquire the language, so just try to have a free conversation. Okay, so you need to choose one one ultimate activities that really have a good engagement. And of course, everyone need to have a small talk, yeah, and also conversation. So you need to try your best to have a good engagement. Yeah, here student engage in the free conversation with the teacher. So you may consult with the teacher, with the lecturer, or even with other learner. So that's why I really suggest you to choose your partner. Yeah, one person is that's okay. Yeah, and yeah, ideally you need to have a group, yeah, group discussion to practice your English. It means that you not only learn the language but also acquire the language. Okay, I think that's all, and I do hope all the
Yeah.
things that have already been discussed and also conveyed
Yes.
been helpful to every single person in this
Okay.
webinar. Thank you, everyone. And I'll
You
give
are
it back to
welcome.
the moderator. Thank you,
You
Prof.
are
Raja.
welcome. Usually, Mr. Alfian is not a long time, but a very interesting sharing because Mr. Alfian is, slow but sure. It's very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Right now, before we go to the second speaker, usually we will to referencing first with the song by video who my friend Indah Gumilang as for your PowerPoint.
All right, sure, sure.
Okay.
I'll share my screen first.
Yeah, right. With the theme or the topic of cross-linguistic influence, CLI. I will to share to Pak Alfian after you sharing.
Sure, sure, sure. Hold on, yeah, Prof. I am sharing right now.
Crossing linguistic influence in the simple present tense
Okay,
from
yes.
Malay to English.
Okay, I'm not so sure what's the problem now. It seems like it doesn't allow me to share my screen.
No
Hold
problem.
on.
I think this is impact
Yeah,
of
because
ketchup
it's security
song.
privacy did not grant access.
Yeah.
Why is it? Hold on. So, oh, okay. All right.
Impact of kecak dance from Bali.
Impact. Yeah.
Aduh.
Okay. Let's see whether it works. Oh.
Jadi, untuk tawan-tawan tahu bahwa
Okay.
Al-Bukhari University International in Kedah, North Malaysia, right? No, Kampung. Betul, Pak?
Betul. Prof, am I sharing my screen now?
Very
It's fine.
clear,
Yeah.
very clear.
All
very
right.
clear.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Okay. So this is my topic for today on cross-linguistic influence. It's good that Mr. Alfian had already given the introduction on language acquisition, because I'm going to touch only a little bit on that. So the introduction, it's like we're having the telepathic. He begins with a very good introduction on the language acquisition, whether it's acquire or
Yeah,
learn,
what coincidence.
right? Yeah.
Telepathy. Good connection.
Yes, telepathy, the connection of English lecturers, right? It's like so easy connected.
Connected. It's so
So yes,
connected. Yeah.
from there, a very good questions that been thrown out by Mr. Alfian. If the students here are actually focusing on the point that he's doing, whether the language is actually acquired or actually you learn the language. So in my sharing session today, I would like to share more on the issues that we are facing with our Malaysian students, especially when it comes with the acquiring simple present tense forms. They actually acquire or they actually learn it. So we will see. I'm going to share some of the issues. So you can see later whether when it comes to second language, student actually learn or acquire based on the issues that we have here. All right, so this is the thing that I'm going to actually share with you today. So I have a very basic introduction on the language acquisition itself, and then we'll go straight away about the cross-linguistic influence. And then I will share on the template structure of Malay present tense and also English simple present tense. So we're going to see, is there a similarities or is there a difference between these two structures? And at the same time, I'm going to discuss on the issues that we are facing currently. It's like ages since my time and carry forward until now. It still persists, the same issue. So I will share it today. All right. So basically, like what Mr. Alfian had already informed earlier, if you guys are actually lending your ears on what the topic that Mr. Alfian sharing just now, whether the language is acquired or whether the language is actually learned by you as the language speakers. Yes, we are the speakers. We are the users of the language. You're using as a medium of communication or you are using it for academic purposes. So now, when we're talking about the first language acquisition, all right. So first language acquisition, most of us can master it. All right, it's like easy absorb. So why does that happen? Because we are actually acquiring it. We acquire. So as early as infant, and also we call it as a young children, as early as 8 months, our brain is very unique, and the way they process things is very fast actually. All right. So due to that, as early age for the first language that you acquire, you can easily absorb the structure. It's very easy for you to understand the structure. That's how unique your brain is actually. If you acquire the language, all right, we're looking at the acquire context, all right, very easy to. So now, research has shown that infants are able to detect and also learn the pattern of their native language from a very early age, all right, because we have a study, a lot of study, all right, so you have to be very, I would say, spend some time to read journals, articles about this. If you are really interested about the language acquisition, it will be very interesting exposure, good exposure for you as a student, all right? Studies had shown that as young as 8 months, we are able to actually differentiate between syllables and words in our native language. And we can actually also recognize the recurring patterns of syllables and also sounds. So you see, you not even know the language, but you just hear, all right, because you are acquiring it and you can actually understand, you can actually brain how the structure of your first language before you can utter it. All right. So as children continue to develop their language skills, so they begin to learn more complex. So now you've been exposed with more complex structure of your native speaker, meaning now if I expose you with formulaic language, some things like in native language, you has the simple present tense form, you can learn it very easy. All right. So when it comes to more complex structure like what we call as proverbs, idioms, it's easy for you to learn in the context of the first language. This is how unique when you acquire the very beginning of the language. All right. So now when we move to the next stage, you are learning maybe your second language, or maybe your third language, or maybe a foreign language. So what happened? Okay, so this is where the cross-linguistic influence take place. All right, because we are more to learn rather than to acquire. Okay, so that's the easiest way to put about the terms of cross-linguistic influence is something like you are referring to your first language in order to learn the second language or the target language, whatever language that comes later. Meaning you are referring to the structure of the native of your language in order to help you to understand the next language that you're going to learn. But this process, sometimes it will actually can facilitate or also hinder the acquisition of the second language. It depends because there's a lot of other factors that might influence at the same time, maybe your age factors and then motivation, attitude. All this, I think Mr. Alfian had already mentioned earlier. If you learn the language, there's a lot of possibilities, the constraint to actually master the language if you are not actually looking at the context of the second language as something that you acquire, meaning you just want to learn. It's not for the purpose of communication, it's just for the purpose of the subject, learning the subject. So it will be very difficult. So you look at the structure and then you will do the comparison, but somehow you not really master the second language. There's a lot of mistake, errors that will come later. All right, so this is the thing that I would say happen to our Malay speaker as well in Malaysia. Meaning they learn English for the purpose of academic rather than for the purpose of a part of the communication. But somehow English is actually our second language in Malaysia, meaning we are using it. If they go to higher institution, we are using English as the main language in the higher institution. But somehow because we are very comfortable with our native language and we are very comfortable to engage with only our people rather than step out a little bit from your comfort zone and engage with more people from other backgrounds, from other culture, which actually will enrich more of your language usage. But the same problem, I believe we are having the same problem with our students as well. They are actually quite afraid to step out from the comfort zone. So let me share a little bit, especially on this problem, a very basic problem on constructing simple present tense. All right. Actually, this is a part of my current research. I'm looking at the template structure or the structure of this Malay and also English present tense, but I'm not going to touch all aspects of present tense, only on simple present tense today. If I touch all the aspects of present tense, it's going to be until tomorrow. All right. So it's only on simple present tense. Okay. Which I would say Malay and English share quite the similar pattern, very similar pattern, where we have subject plus verb plus object. How about in Indonesia? The context of your what we call the Indonesian Bahasa Indonesia. How's the structure? Is it similar? Subject, verb, object. Is it similar? Perhaps Prof or Mr. Alfian, do we have the same structure? It's similar, right?
Yeah.
Subject followed by verb and object, right? It's quite similar to English. So unlike if we're looking at the what you know, Gujarati or maybe Hindu language, right, where they have subject followed by object followed by verb, that might cause difficulty for them because of the differences. But for Malay and English, I believe Bahasa Indonesia also share the same template where we have subject verb object. It's very easy for us to understand the structure of English if we acquire it as our second language, right? So we are sharing the same thing, but in Malaysia, in Bahasa Melayu, we have the time word. these time word actually indicate whether it's in present or also in past or also in future. We have the time word. All right. In Malay language, this time word can be either initial, middle, or at the final position. I'll share you the template. All right. Okay. That's more like very close to English, right? So we have the subject, verb, object. Dia pergi ke sekolah. I believe in English also we have the same thing, right? Dia pergi ke sekolah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the first subject, right? And then if we are putting the time word in the template structure, in the structure of the present tense form, simple present tense, sorry. Okay, we have the time word when it is at initial, where we have the word sekarang, now, right? Malay, English. Sekarang dia pergi ke sekolah. Initiate simple present tense. It's happened in the present. And also it can also, the time word can also come in the second word in one sentence, like dia sekarang pergi ke sekolah, also correct. When they have he now go to school. So it's the same. And last but not least, it can come at the end of it, where we have dia pergi ke sekolah sekarang. So it's like the position is can be at the initial or the second, or also at the end, in the middle, and also at the end. So let's go and see on the English template structure. I want you to see the similarities first, because if it's similar, it should be easy for them to acquire. All right, so now in English present tense form, we have the same thing. And in English, the time words is actually as adverbials, the time adverbials. So where we have now or maybe tomorrow. So it's the same with the Malay time words. So let's see here. So I have an example for simple present tense form. Subject, verb, object. He goes to school. Same like what I just showed to you just now. Dia pergi ke sekolah. And then we have adverbials that comes at initial position. So now he goes to school. And we also have adverbials come at the initial position and middle position, where subject, adverbials, verb, and object. He now goes to school, also in the correct structure of grammatically of English and also Malay. Very easy, right? So very similar, very close. And we also have subject, verb, object, and adverbials that at the end of the sentence. He goes to school now. So this, what I want you to see, if you really acquire, very easy to actually grasp or understand the context of the second language. If you really wanted to learn it and also use it, all right, not for the purpose of academics. So you can see the similarities, but then this is where the problem occurs, okay? The differences. Okay, instead of having the similarities in terms of the structure, we do have difference when it comes to what we call as verb rules. Because in English, if singular, we put S at the end of the word. But if a plural noun, we don't have S. Unlike bahasa Melayu, if singular and plural, we are using the same word, pergi. We don't call pergis, or we don't call as pergi, something like that. So pergi, future, present, or past, pergilah, pergi, pergi. So we don't change the verb. But in English, it did change. So here, when subject plus verb and object for singular noun, so it goes like he goes to school. But for Malay, for singular subject, noun plus verb plus object, dia pergi ke sekolah. So we look at the context of the plural now. For English, subject plus verb plus object, they go to school. So no more ES because it's a plural. But when it comes to Malay plural, for the context of the noun, it becomes mereka because more than one. But for verbs, remain, pergi. So how many of you, we don't care, but we'll still using single, what we call single verb. So we don't change the verb. If you are more than one, or you are going with how many people, we don't really care about that. We are still using the single verb. So this is the problem that actually happening, all right, that we are actually investigate whether good, because you are throwing about acquisition and learning there, right? So that's a difference. If the student really acquire the language, they can see this as a part of the difference of the two language, Malay and also English. But if you're learning for the purpose of just learning the language. For the subject, there's a lot of issues that happening. So I have two groups that actually we are looking at in terms of these issues. All right, we have one advanced group, meaning they are very competent user of English, smooth, all right, almost native-like speaking. And also we have the lower intermediate, where this group usually we're taking those who are still learning the language itself. All right. So based on our observation, these two Malay groups, all right, I have an example here. If you're looking at the example here, it's actually from the lower intermediate. They can actually write. Yes, they can write. But there's a missing of inflectional markers. This is where the verb, the problem in verb happen. All right. A young woman come at the children, but the children cry because scary. Aware that they are lower intermediate. The structure also, there's a lot of grammatical errors there. All right. When look at the children, they are hugging and persuading the children, and they go back at the beach. She sit before this. All right. Most of the verb here, if you can see, is actually referring to the singular noun, but they are using the verb for plural. Because, okay, this is one of the transfer issue from Malay, because in Malay, we don't have the difference between the verb. No difference. So for the lower intermediate, they are actually transferring directly from the idea or perhaps from the knowledge of the first language. So the structure is okay because like I showed you earlier, the structure is just the same. So it's easy for them to actually construct the sentence. It's like transfer the language from Malay to translate to English, but the problem will occur on the grammatical part. All right, so we believe this might be the influence from this language, and probably it's fossilized, all right? Because when it comes to fossilization, yes, there's age factor, there's a lot of things that we need to consider. But then when the mistake is persistent, it's no longer a mistake, it becomes errors. And these errors, when we fix it, they can actually make a correction now, but in future, they will actually do the same thing again and again. So that's why we believe that this is fossilized issue, fossilization, meaning we'll try to fix it, but then later after a certain stage, they'll still commit the same problem, the same mistake. All right, so this might be because they just learn the language, not really acquire the language. All right, but for the advanced group, missing inflections still occur. They did do the mistake. It's not saying that it's a flawless essay. They still did it, but it's not that obvious. It's like a slip of writing. Maybe something like writing quickly, something like wanted to submit it quickly. So there's a missing inflection for the verbs in terms of the singular. But then when we actually brought that up, they know how to fix it. They know what's the issue. If we give back the essay, can you check? Now, can you fix any problem that actually you did in the essay that you already sent to me? So they can actually find it. So we believe that for the advanced group, probably it's a slip of writing, only a slip of writing, not issue of like fossilized, or not an issue like they really don't know the mistake that already committed. So it's very huge difference between these two groups. All right. And there's also one more issue regarding the simple present tense, where the use of time word. Okay, this is very interesting because when it comes to the Malay use of time word, like kini, sekarang, dan masa kini, both group very good. They know how to use it. I think, of course, because it's a native language, right? They can use it advancedly when it comes to the native essay. But then when we ask them to translate it into English essay, the same topic, the problems with the lower intermediate, they're not even using the timed adverbials. No, not at all. Very minimum usage of it. So it's very difficult for us to find the use something like now, currently. It's like directly right in a template of simple present tense only. So there's a huge difference. You can see a very huge difference between a group that really master the language, meaning they communicate well with the language, and the group where they learn, still in the process of learning the language. Very huge differences. So we can say that for the lower intermediate, their understanding, even the simple present tense is a very basic, I would say, the introduction to English, right? Simple present tense is a very basic, very easy and very simple to learn. But for the lower intermediate group, I believe they are at a very basic level in order to understand and grasp it. That's why we are still not yet moved to the structure of present progressive tense or simple present perfect, continuous. We are yet not reached to there yet. There will be a lot more issue when we go to more complex structure of English. So basically, these are the things that I can share for today. But I'm looking forward if you're interested to know more about this kind of issue, especially in second language acquisition. I would really love to share with all of you. Like I said, if I taking all the example from all types of present tense, will take until tomorrow, it won't settle because we are looking at because as an English teacher, there's a lot of essays that we have to evaluate and we have to mark every day. So we can see and detect that immediately when it comes to mistake, and we know. And good that Mr. Alfian also highlight about the ChatGPT now. Suddenly lower intermediate students can write very good essay. You know there's something wrong. You know there's something wrong, right? Because of this ChatGPT and everything. Yes, this thing, if they use it not in a good way, all right, in doing their assignment, because ChatGPT is very advanced, Mr. Alfian. Even the lecturers also, actually, in terms of preparing our materials and everything, yes, we rely on that. So ChatGPT can actually give advantage and also disadvantage. So the disadvantage part is for our part, English teacher. I have to change assessment. Instead of giving them assignment where they can take home, no more. Everything have to be done in class. We'll do like a reflection essay in order to make sure they acquire the language rather than they just do for the sake of the marks. That's the thing. I believe, yeah, that's my sharing for today. I hope that we can get more engagement in future to discuss more about this kind of issues. It's a very interesting issue to be able, to discuss with all of you today. Now, perhaps if there's any question to ask me, yes, no problem.
Okay, many questions right now in my email, but usually I only choose 2 questions for every speaker because the time is limited. Therefore, we go to question answer direct. I will to read the question for the first for Mr. Alfian. Okay, this question I chose from Yanti and Ain. Mr. Alfian, very interesting sharing from you. I get the new experience today. Okay, comment of Yanti. But the question, the first, many students learning English from elementary school to senior high school in Indonesia. But while they study in university, not full benefit of English skill from the elementary and senior high school because majority in Indonesia university use bahasa Indonesia as bahasa national. What they or we can do to maintenance of knowledge regard English language for the future? This is the question from Yanti. And then question from Ain. Right now, we easy to access many platforms to upgrade our English language. But especially me, very confused to use digital device for it. Please advise me to effectively use digital access to upgrade my skill in English. This is the question from Ain. He hope you advise her about how can to effectively use of digital for upgrade her English skill. Okay, right now the question for Puan Nurul from Kurnia. Thank you, Puan. Very good sharing today from you. Okay, this comment. The question, We look many students in Malaysia more influent in English for communication than Indonesian students. What the policy of Malaysia government or for school regard skill of English in education process in Malaysia? This is the question from Kurnia for Puan Nurul. The second from Yani. We know in Malaysia many schools by ethnic like Malay, Indian, Chinese school. Is there all of school learn Malay language? Because in Indonesia must be learn bahasa Indonesia. But Indonesian government not by rules regard another language in school or university. Please inform me about Indonesia, Malaysia situation. Itu dua saja masing-masing saya ambil atau pilih dari beberapa question in my email right now. The first, Mr. Alfian will be to answer around 5 to 6 minutes or less for 2 questions.
Yeah, thank you, Praja. Well, I think for the first questions, it's kind of never-ending polemic actually. Yeah, yeah, it's been it's been questioned for a long time ago because you know what? So this is the first thing we need to as Indonesian we need to agree with, because here in Indonesia English still viewed as a foreign language, not as a second language. Remember, we have Sumpah Pemuda, the old pledge, because we need to use Bahasa Indonesia as a lingua franca. Maybe that possibly one of the a burden and also obstacle that we may find when we want to use English. But remember, if you have a mindset that, oh, this is English as a, as a business language, as an economic language, as a that you can use in your working place, you know what, it will be helpful for you. So I would say why Indonesians are not really able to practice English even though they have already learned English, started from elementary up to senior high school, even until university. Yeah, I would say it's because lack of exposure. Yeah, so you cannot rely on the lecture and also the teacher. Okay, so you need to bring about the activities, okay, out of the classroom. Why? Because you need to have a great exposure. That's why we have several recommendations from those four language skill: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. You need to bring about a good activities out of the classroom. So you don't need to rely on the classroom activities only. So that's why if you want to be able to master English later on, until when you graduated from the university, so you need to have a partner to speak with, to discuss with, and you need to have a good exposure. That's the thing. Yeah, you need to have a good exposure. If you one of the movie holic, why don't you try to give more time to watch interesting movie? Don't forget, try not to use the subtitle. Okay, maybe for the first stage you may use subtitle, but remember, don't use subtitle English Indonesia. I mean, the movies in English movie, try your best not to use Bahasa Indonesia as a subtitle. Try your best to use English, because you want to see and also analyze the sentence. Okay, and the next stage, push yourself not to use subtitle. Okay, because we need to have a good exposure. Okay, that's the first thing for the first question. And for the second question regarding the digital advice, It also happenings and also still, you know, still being researched actually, because everyone try to see the ICT integration, yeah, in language teaching as a positive side only. Yeah, but in reality, the tool can be, you know, a backfire for the user. So that's why I would give advice regarding to the way we use ICT integration in a way we practice our English. Okay, we have S, A, M, and R. S stand for substitution. Okay, you need to check. Maybe you want to use a kind of, you know, platform or website or even application. Just reflect to yourself whether this platform only can be used to substitute when usually you use a piece of paper and you only use application to only to substitute. My suggestion, yeah, just don't use it because still in the first level, yeah, the benefit, yeah, you may possibly not get the good benefit from it, and you need to challenge yourself. If when you want to choose one application or website or platform, you need to have a good augmentation. Challenge yourself. Yeah, I would suggest you one of the application that can be used to support your English practice, maybe like Duolingo and any other kind of application. Yeah. And also you need to modify. You have a good modification of that application. Just remember, they are just kind of tool. Remember, just kind of tool. You may choose, sorry, you may first, yeah, come forward to the purpose. Remember, oh, maybe you have a specific purpose. I want to be able to speak and also be able to deliver a good presentation. Means your purpose in terms of speaking. Just choose appropriate application that support your speaking ability. Okay, that's the thing. So you need to modify. And the next things, which is also important, is you need to redefine. Have a good redefinition of that application that you choose. And to sum up, I would say you need to try to come up with the purpose, not the tool. Okay, this is the imagination. Oh, there are two tools. Oh, this is good. This is good. So just neglect it. Okay, you need to try to focus on the purpose. From those four language skills, which one will be your focus? Two skills, three skills, or four skills? If you have only one specific skill, possibly speaking, just choose the tools that really support that speaking skills. Yeah, I think that will be my answer.
Okay, good. Very smart answer. And then continue to Panurul. The two questions.
Okay, all right. Regarding the two questions that I have just now about the policy, Malaysian government policy when it comes to English language in school, right? Okay, I think it's just the same like in Indonesia where we have Bahasa Melayu as our bahasa kebangsaan and also English as the second language. Meaning, when we're talking about the government policy, so the medium of communication when it comes to schools, government schools, we are using actually Bahasa Melayu. Bahasa Melayu. So English become the second language, a part of the subject. But then we encourage the usage of English because we're looking at the context of the current situation, all right? The younger generation especially, where the exposure towards English begins at a very early age nowadays. And thank you for COVID lah, because during that time where we actually exposed them a lot of YouTube, we have a generation of a very fluent English YouTube language. But then it's right. But then, yeah, when it comes to school, the government policy was still using Bahasa Melayu, meaning once they enter the government schools, standard one, whether or not they must be able to speak Bahasa Melayu. So it's like a bonus if they are able to speak in English. And we go to the second questions, where in Chinese or Indian school, do they actually been exposed with Bahasa Melayu? And the answer is yes. It's a must because bahasa kebangsaan is a priority. Even though you are in Chinese school, you are in Indian school, or whatever schools we have here in Malaysia, Except for private school, of course, English will be the medium because government is actually not step into their policy because it's private and people pay for that. But for government school, whether or not if it's come for India, for Chinese, bahasa kebangsaan, bahasa Melayu is the priority and English becomes the second language and there goes for their mother tongue like Indian, Chinese, they learn Mandarin, and also Hindu will learn the language as well. So there's a part of it. So basically, that's the context in Malaysia lah, where I think we are sharing quite the same thing, I believe. Right. So I'm answering to both questions already because you're interested to know about the policy.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, therefore the China school and Indian school must be to use a Malay language too.
Yes, it's a must for them to be able to use the Malay language because in the subject as well they have Bahasa Melayu. It's the same.
Because before that there is the
issue.
the case the issue about this issue, right? But now must be, right?
Yes, because of the issue where they said that Chinese is not able to speak Malay properly, Indian not able to speak Malay properly. I think if, like I said, if it's for the previous generation, yes, they might have that kind of problem. But for the younger generation, we have a very fluent Chinese, Malay. They can speak very fluently as compared to the Malay people itself.
I think different as millennials and then the baby boomers historical, right? Okay, before we closing remark, we go to second song. Mr. Alvia, about 1-2 minutes, please.
Yeah, okay. Since the topic that I already shared about acquisition and also learning, so I just don't want to make students take a wrong conclusion. It means that it's not our purpose to differentiate and also choose one of them. So we need to combine. Okay, so you need to focus on the purpose, and then every single time you learn a language, just reflect whether or not you have already mastered the language. If it haven't, so you need to learn. If it hasn't, so you need to acquire. So because in the current research also is still debatable, also is still intriguing, also still interesting, whether we need to learn or whether we need to acquire the language. Why don't we try to combine one of them? Because we need to focus on the purpose and also the function of the language itself. Language means we try to communicate with it, okay, by means of communication. So if you are not able to communicate with the language you are learning and also you are acquiring, means you haven't mastered the language itself. So we don't need to choose from one of them. So we need to combine and also focus on the purpose and heavily by using learning, also acquiring, learning again, acquiring again, learning again. One kind of the never-ending process. Yes, means that we try our best to master the language. Keep on practicing. And that's my closing remarks.
Wow. Usually I remind of you as a speaker, this event, LC event, is the first gate to introduce of a lecturer from many campus in Southeast Asia for introduce first. Tak kenal maka tak sayang, but I hope after kenal, kalaupun tak boleh sayang-sayangan, tapi nak buat collaboration dalam academic activities. I think you can to create the paper with collaboration or research collaboration. Therefore, please you share your email address in chat box Nurul and Mr. Alfian too. We hope next time I can I will to look your collaboration in the another activities in academic, mainly in journal, in Al-Bukhari journal. There is the paper or the article of Mr. Alfian and the Esa Unggul journal too from Ms. Nurul. I hope to continue our collaboration next time is more and more, right? And don't forget you share your email address in the chat board right now. But I will to share the WhatsApp number too to Mr. Alfian and Nurul for several for the next time collaboration. Okay, Puan Nurul, you can do closing with the song by Miley. Do you want to repeat the song or you will do the new song?
Maybe we'll have a spot there.
Okay, sila Puan.
All right. Just to conclude, actually, I'm happy to be here today. Thank you so much. So for all the students, all right, with the sharing, I hope it will give some insight for you. Actually, learning the language is not that difficult. It needs practice and also exposure. All right. Looking at the current situation, English is actually a global language. Meaning, once you master it, it will give a very good platform for you to go further, to fly high, to dream big. All right, that's the most important thing. Don't look at the language as your enemy. Make it as your friend. All right, that's the most important thing. All right, so there's a lot of research actually that we can actually collaborate, perhaps Prof and also Mr. Alfian in the near future. All right, I really look forward for that because this is not just something like a short engagement. When we have this kind of session, I really hope that we can have a long journey together in the future, especially in
Yes, for
order
sure.
to improve
Okay.
the situation of the usage of language, even in English context or also in Indonesian context to help our students. That's the most important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Puan, I want to inform you about Esa Unggul for your promotion to Al-Bukhari University. Esa Unggul is the 5th best private university in Jakarta.